Ichthys Theater Productions presents Sherlock Holmes and the April Fool's Day Adventure. This production proudly sponsored by Joshua Wall of the Crew Real Estate. Are you or someone you know considering buying, selling, or investing in real estate? If so, better call Wall. Now I'm certain our good friend Dr. Watson is waiting for us, so let's go in and join him.
Come in. Ah, there you are. Right to the minute as always.
This is one doctor's appointment I'm always eager to keep.
Nice of you to say, old boy. Now, go up to your usual chair and make yourself comfortable.
Thank you. Well, Doctor, today is April the 1st. Did anyone try to play any jokes on you?
They did, but I'm happy to say nobody caught me. Not as in the story I am about to tell you. An April Fool's prank that certainly scored a bullseye.
I see you have the dispatch box out again, Doctor. You've been refreshing your memory?
Yes, and when I tell you the adventure that took place in 1881, I think you'll agree that after such a passing of time, a man can hardly rely on memory alone.
1881? Doctor, the adventure must have been one of the really early ones.
Yes, indeed. It took place a little while after Sherlock Holmes and I first met. I had come to lodge with him.
How was the great detective?
A mystery to me. I'll give you an example. I had taken up lodgings at Baker Street for nearly a month before I was certain of his profession, the knowledge of which I learnt, to my own astonishment, when our first adventure together took place.
That was the one you called, A Study in Scarlet, wasn't it, Doctor?
Oh, quite the memory you've got. Astonishing. But even after that adventure, I found myself wondering, at times, what I had gotten myself in for. Sharing lodgings with a famous companion. It was in one of those moods of doubt and confusion that my story begins. Late one March evening, I found myself in the neighborhood of Piccadilly Circus. Cold and a steady drizzle of rain had dampened my spirits. I thought a glass of wine and the sound of music would put me in a better mood, and so entered the Criterion restaurant. As I sat with a glass of rare vintage port at my elbow, the orchestra playing a dreamy Strauss waltz in the background, I couldn't help but thinking of the last time I had been there. It was the night I had met a young medical student by the name of Stamford. He was the man who first introduced me to Sherlock Holmes. Suddenly, I felt a tap on my shoulder. I turned and, to my amazement, once again, young Stamford was standing before me.
Watson! Or should I say, Dr. Watson? How are you, my dear chap?
Hello, Stamford. Come and sit down.
Thanks. I'm glad to see you're not holding any grudge against me.
Why on earth should I do that?
For introducing you to Sherlock Holmes. I've reproached myself ever since. I think he's mad as a hatter.
Not at all. He's eccentric. As a matter of fact, I'll admit he's eccentric. But he's an extraordinarily interesting fellow. He'll make a great name of himself as a private detective one of these days. You'll see if I'm not right, Stamford.
I saw something about him in the paper the other day.
The Lauriston Gardens affair, was it not?
Yes, it was.
He's a brilliant man. Quite a brilliant man. Although I must admit, he works as a fiend as a rule. But occasionally, overexertion set on him for days at a time, and he'll lie on our sofa hardly uttering a word or moving a muscle from morning until night. Pressing, I must say.
I think he takes himself too seriously.
Yes, perhaps you are right.
How would you like to join in a little plot?
A plot? Against Holmes?
Yes, just a rag, you know. We thought it would be rather fun.
We?
Murphy and I. We were just talking about him. I will call him over. Murphy!
Is that Murphy? I've seen him before somewhere, haven't I?
I'm sure you must have done. He's been around at the hospital, and any time you go into the British Museum, you'll find him there. Nice fellow, but dull. Definitely dull.
Yes, Stamford?
Oh, this is a friend of mine, John Watson. This is James Murphy.
How do you do? I think I've seen you at the hospital.
I know I've seen you, Dr. Watson.
Well, sit down and come and join us, won't you?
Well, thank you.
I've just been telling Watson about our little plot.
Oh, you mean about Sherlock Holmes?
Now, look here. I'd like you fellas to realize that Holmes is a very good friend of mine.
Oh, don't worry, Watson. It's all in good fun. Don't you realize what date it is tomorrow?
1st of April, isn't it?
Yes, it's April Fool's Day.
Oh, now I see. You're going to play an April Fool's Day joke on Holmes.
Yes, that's our plan.
Well, it's hardly our plan, Stamford. It's Lady Anne Partington's idea. You see, Holmes was very rude to her when she went to the hospital recently, and she wants to, take him down a peg or two.
Well, it sounds innocent enough. I must say he's inclined to be rather arrogant at times. What's the plan?
And we'll need your help, Watson. You must be careful not to give the joke away. I'll bet you a fiver that Holmes falls for the whole story, hook, line, and sinker. Now, here's exactly what we're planning to do. Lady Anne is going to call on Holmes at 8:15 in the morning.
And you want to involve me in my professional capacity?
Surely, my dear man, you didn't think this was a social call. You were much too rude to me the other day at the hospital for that.
That's the point I was trying to make. Anne, please do sit down, won't you?
Here, take this chair, Lady Anne. I find it the most comfortable chair in the room.
Thank you, Dr. Watson.
And now, what can I do to help you?
You've heard of the Elphinstone Emerald?
Oh, yes, indeed. A magnificent stone of very considerable value. An heirloom in your family, I believe.
Yes, Mr. Holmes. I keep it in a wall safe in my bedroom. This morning, when I had occasion to go to the safe, I discovered that the emerald had been stolen.
Stolen?
Great Scott! Shocking business. Of course you want Mr. Holmes to recover it for you.
Remarkable deduction, my good doctor. Lady Anne, when you opened the safe, did you observe any signs of it having been tampered with?
I think it's rather stupid to sit and answer any questions here in Baker Street. Why don't you come over to my house in Cavendish Square and examine the safe for yourself? You are a detective, aren't you?
Lady Anne, just now you accused me of rudeness. I assure you that mine was unintentional.
Now, come, Holmes. Don't be so touchy.
I can promise you a substantial fee, Mr. Holmes.
I'm a struggling practitioner in a new profession, eh? My poverty, but not my will, consents.
I pay thy poverty and not thy will. You see, I can quote my Shakespeare too, Mr. Holmes. My carriage is waiting, gentlemen. Let's drive over to Cavendish Square at once, shall we? This is the wall safe, Mr. Holmes.
Not too difficult a safe to crack, for an expert. You placed the emerald in it last night, you say?
Yes, when I went to bed. And this morning it had gone.
Surely, Holmes, this is a good occasion to use that magnifying glass you're always talking about.
Excellent occasion, my dear doctor. That's why I brought it with me. Aha. Very interesting.
What is it?
This safe was opened by an expert. No sign of it having been forced. Hello.
Oh, what have you discovered?
There's a peculiar tarnish on the steel knob. It was obviously handled by someone whose fingers are habitually stained with chemicals.
Amazing, Holmes.
Elementary, my dear doctor. Where does that door lead to?
My boudoir.
I should like to examine it, if I may.
But of course.
Thank you, Lady Anne.
Oh, Dr. Watson, this is the most beautiful April Fool's Day fraud I have ever played.
I think you're all right. He has fallen for it. Hook, line, and sinker. Just the same, I'm beginning to feel guilty. I can't help but being a bit disloyal.
Oh, nonsense. It's all in fun.
Are Stamford and Mr. Murphy listening?
Yes, they are next door in my drawing room. I'm sure their ears are positively glued to the keyhole.
I do hope Holmes won't be angry with me.
Shh, here he comes.
Nothing of any interest in there. The windows haven't been tampered with. We may presume, therefore, that the thief did not enter by an upstairs window. Lady Anne?
Yes, Mr. Holmes?
This room has not been touched since you discovered your loss?
Oh, no. I told the servants to leave it exactly as it was while I came to fetch you.
Splendid. Splendid. Deep pile carpet, eh? The thief was a tall man with a long stride.
Come, Holmes. I know your methods, but there aren't any footprints on this carpet that you can identify, even with your magnifying glass.
My good doctor, I've studied many crimes, and I've never seen one yet that was committed by a flying creature. As long as the criminal remains only on two legs, there must be some displacement that can be observed by a keen observer. I will show you that the marks on this carpet indicate that the thief was a tall man with a long stride. Bag tobacco that sells for 2d an ounce.
Now, really, Mr. Holmes, how can you possibly identify an individual tobacco?
Oh, it's a hobby of mine. Now, one more look. Hello. What's this powdered dust here? It's rosin. Lady Anne, I suggest you get in touch with Scotland Yard at once.
You mean you've solved it, Holmes?
I mean, my dear doctor, that I can give you a reasonably complete picture of the thief, and that picture is so individual that I'd be surprised if it would fit more than one man in London.
This is pure magic, Mr. Holmes. Please, describe him to me.
Well, he's a tall man. The width of his stride would indicate that. And he's thin.
So what enables you to tell that, Holmes?
His footprints have made a remarkably light indentation in the carpet. Our thief dabbles extensively in chemicals, as indicated by the tarnishing of the knob on the safe, and the presence of rosin would suggest he plays the violin. Also, he smokes tobacco. He has a great practical knowledge of the ways of combination locks, and he's obviously in close contact with the criminal classes.
How do you know that, Mr. Holmes?
Yes, it's a very comprehensive picture, Holmes. I almost feel like I know the chap.
Thank you, Doctor. I'm sure there's only one man in London, and it shouldn't be hard to trace him.
I agree entirely, Mr. Holmes. Oh, Dr. Watson, I think the joke has gone far enough.
Joke? What do you mean?
Quite right, Holmes. You say there's only one man in London, and you've just given a perfect description of yourself.
April Fools! Dr. Stamford, Mr. Murphy, you can come in now.
April Fools, Holmes!
April Fools!
Come along here, into the drawing room, everyone. Let us drink a glass of wine to Mr. Holmes, who has graciously forgiven us for the little trick we have played on him. And all because of Dr. Stamford, who thought of the whole idea.
No hard feelings, Holmes?
No, Doctor. Although it was a rather embarrassing experience.
Oh, well, when Murphy told me about the plan, I just couldn't resist joining him.
Ah, here you are, Holmes. Here's a drink.
Thank you, Stamford.
You know Murphy, don't you?
No, I don't believe we've met. How do you do, sir?
How do you do, Holmes? How do you like the little game we played on you?
It was a rather salutary experience. I suppose you gave them all the details to build up the picture of me, eh, Doctor?
I did, Holmes. And knowing some of your methods, we tried to plant every clue you'd pick up.
Very neat job, too. And incidentally, a perfect example of the danger of deduction based purely on circumstantial evidence. I shall profit from this little lesson.
I must say, Holmes, it was worth a fortune in emeralds to see your face when you realized what you had done.
Well, the joke's over now. By the way, where is Lady Anne?
I believe she said she was going to fetch the Elphinstone Emerald. She thought you might be interested in seeing it.
She probably feels the sight of it will solve my wounded vanity.
Oh, here she comes now.
Mr. Holmes! Mr. Holmes!
Great Scott!
What's wrong?
What's happened, Lady Anne?
The emerald. It's not where I hid it. This time, it's really stolen.
We'll continue with Sherlock Holmes in the April Fool's Day adventure in just a moment. As a sincere thank you for tuning in, our sponsor, Joshua Wall from the Crew Real Estate, would like to give you an opportunity to enter into a draw for a free prize giveaway. Yes, that's right. I said free prize giveaway. Participate by visiting thecrewrealestate.com/Sherlock for a chance to win. Once again, that's thecrewrealestate.com/Sherlock. This week's prize is a mystery electronic device befitting a Sherlock Holmes adventure. Fascinating, Dr. Watson. Your April Fool's Day plot kind of backfired on you, didn't it?
Yes, it was the perfect example of the biter bit.
Well, what happened next? I suppose Sherlock Holmes went into action once again?
Yes, and it gladdened my heart to see the change in the fellow. I confess I'd grown rather ashamed of my part in the prank, for I could see that Holmes' pride had been hurt. But now, with the definite crime before him, the difference was amazing. He suddenly became a dynamo, galvanized into action as he stood there, firing questions.
Lady Anne, besides yourself, who knew of this fresh hiding place?
Both Murphy and I did.
Yes, after we left our deliberate clues on the safe, we went with Lady Anne and saw her secret the emerald in the top drawer of her dressing table.
We thought it would be all right there. After all, as soon as the joke was over, I was going to put it back into the safe.
I think our wisest plan, before we question the servants, would be that each one of you who was in on this April Fool's prank submit to being searched.
Holmes, surely you're not suggesting any one of us took the emerald?
No, Stamford, I don't. But if any of you four are not guilty, this would be a splendid way of proving your innocence.
I say, steady, Holmes. You're not suggesting that Lady Anne stole her own emeralds, are you?
Are you, Mr. Holmes?
I'm suggesting nothing. But I may point out that the recent vogue for the insurance companies, it has provided another interesting motive for the so-called theft.
I resent your insinuation. It's outrageous.
Lady Anne, if I'm to recover your emerald, I must at least consider every possibility. The search is the most immediate practical action. Perhaps you'll retire into the next room while I persuade these gentlemen to submit to being searched.
Very well. But I think you're in danger of making a fool of yourself once again.
Wait. Lady Anne, the search won't be necessary.
What do you mean, Murphy?
I must throw myself on your mercy, Lady Anne. I confess that I stole the emerald.
Murphy!
After you put it in the drawer, Lady Anne, I slipped back into the room and I took it out.
Murphy, that is a criminal action.
I know it, but I'm poor. And I needed money desperately for my mathematical research. I knew the emerald was priceless and, well, I couldn't resist the temptation to take advantage of a joke. Here, Lady Anne, here's the stone, and please don't prosecute me, please don't. It will be my ruin.
May I examine the emerald, Lady Anne? Thank you.
Well, Mr. Murphy, I won't pretend that I'm not deeply shocked. I must ask you to leave my house.
But you won't prosecute me, will you? It was a moment's temptation.
No, I won't prosecute you.
Holmes, what are you doing with the emerald?
I have learned something of the deceptive ways of thieves and came upon this case fully prepared to test the emerald when I found it. Now, a drop of this acid from this vial...
Mr. Holmes, what are you doing? You'll injure the stone.
No, not if it is a true emerald. Aha! Look at that.
Good Lord. The acid is eating through the stone as if it was sugar.
Then that means...
It means, Lady Anne, that Mr. Murphy has just impaired his honor and his freedom to steal a singularly beautiful fake.
Mr. Holmes, this joke has turned into a nightmare. Is there no way of recovering my emerald?
I hope so, Lady Anne. I've been taking steps in their logical order. The servants have all been questioned, and we've searched Mr. Stamford and Mr. Murphy.
Yes, a most humiliating experience. Made me feel like a criminal.
Well, personally, I was only too thankful to submit to a search this time. Knew I had nothing to worry about.
You yourself, Lady Anne, you consented to being searched by the police matron that Holmes sent for?
Only because he threatened to send for the head inspector if I didn't. As distasteful as it was, I would rather endure that than have this story on the front pages of the newspapers.
And in spite of all these unpleasant proceedings, we've got exactly nowhere as regards to finding the emerald.
No, Stamford, but we have at least eliminated the possibility that the thief is secreting the jewel on his person.
Still somewhere in these 2 rooms, eh, Holmes?
I think so. Though there is one remaining possibility.
And that is?
That the fake stone was substituted for the real emerald sometime before all of you engineered your April Fool's Day joke.
Oh, no, Mr. Holmes, that's not possible. I know it was the genuine emerald that I took out of the safe this morning.
How can you be so sure? The substitute was an excellent imitation. Without the chemical tests such as I performed, it would be hard to be certain.
I can tell you why I am certain. Last night, Papa came to dinner and brought a Mr. Vandeleder of Amsterdam. He examined the stone, and you'll agree that a jewel expert like that couldn't be fooled.
That's true, Lady Anne. And what did you do with the emerald after Mr. Vandeleder left?
I locked it in my safe and went to bed. I didn't unlock the safe again until Dr. Stamford and Mr. Murphy came here this morning.
That settles it, then. The real emerald is still hidden somewhere in these 2 rooms.
But where? That's the question.
I must say, it's completely mystifying.
Well, let's go back to what we were all doing at the exact moment you came into the room, Lady Anne, and informed us of the loss of your stone. Now, we were
drinking a toast to you, and then
That's it. Lady Anne, hard thinking is thirsty work.
Oh, I am so sorry. Let me get you something. A glass of port, perhaps?
No, thank you. But I observe you have a remarkably comprehensive assortment of liqueurs. I wonder if I might have a glass of creme de menthe.
Oh, of course. I'll get it for you.
Creme de menthe in the middle of the day, Holmes.
I knew you were eccentric, but this is
Mr.
really...
Holmes, this bottle, it clinks when I pick it up.
I thought it might, Lady Anne.
There's something inside.
Allow me, Lady Anne. Thank you. I'm sure you won't mind if I waste this liqueur on this potted aspidistra. Lady Anne, allow me to restore to you the Elphinstone Emerald.
Great Scott.
Amazing.
Fantastic.
Ingenious. The one safe hiding place in the room. Where could a green gem be more effectively hidden than in a bottle of green liqueur?
But who stole it? Who substituted the fake stone?
Frankly, I don't care. I'd prefer not to go to court. Neither you nor I, Mr. Sherlock Holmes, would show up in the best of light, and my father would disapprove of this whole affair.
Just as you wish, Lady Anne. In either case, I shall expect your check for my services in due course.
Here we are again at the Criterion, Stanford. Won't you come in and join us for lunch?
Thank you, Watson, but I'll keep the cab and go on. I actually have a patient this afternoon. A rare and delightful experience for a young doctor.
As rare and delightful as a plan for a young detective, I suppose. Eh, Stamford? I quite understand, and I am correspondently grateful to you for your profitable hopes.
I hope it was profitable for you. Personally, I feel quite stupid about the whole thing. Well, goodbye.
Goodbye. Remarkably quiet, Murphy.
I'm afraid my conscience won't let me do much talking, Dr. Watson. I am heartily ashamed of myself. Well, thanks for the lift. I'll leave you chaps.
Nonsense. You'll join us for lunch, Murphy.
But-
No buts about it. I insist. Come on.
Awfully nice of you.
Come, Murphy. Any one of us can make a foolish mistake. It's just lucky that you didn't have to pay for yours.
Monsieur wishes a table?
Yes, a table for 3, please.
This way, monsieur.
Thank you.
Does this table please you?
Excellent. Thank you.
Oui, oui.
By Jove, I'm as hungry as a hunter. How about you, Murphy?
No, I'm afraid I have very little appetite. This whole case has upset me dreadfully.
You mustn't take it too much to heart, Murphy. By the way, Doctor, I'd like to have your opinion on the case. Who do you think staged the theft of the emerald today?
Perfectly obvious to me. Lady Anne Partington did it herself to collect the insurance money. If she hadn't, she would have insisted on you finding the thief. But you needn't worry, old chap. You'll get your fee all right, I'm sure.
Oh, I'm not worried about the fee, but I assure you Lady Anne did not engineer that fraud today.
You mean it was Stamford?
Tell him who was responsible, Murphy.
But how should I know?
Oh, come now, Murphy. Let's not fence any longer. You did an excellent job, a superlative job. I was almost sorry to spoil it for you.
Don't think I understand what you're...
Oh, yes, you do, Murphy. You're a splendid actor, too. I was so deeply touched when you had apparently stolen a fake jewel, and all the time you knew the real one was safely hidden in the bottle of creme de menthe to be extracted at your leisure. You scoundrel.
Holmes, would you mind telling me what's going on here?
Surely it's obvious, my dear doctor. The imitation emerald was a brilliant copy.
What makes you so sure of that, my dear Holmes?
Because this April Fool's Day joke was only conceived of yesterday. Well, that is what you wish the others to believe. But such a superb fake gem could not have been made at such short notice. Therefore, it must have been made by someone who knew of the hoax before it was arranged. Now, my dear doctor, when Stamford told you about the plan last night, whose idea did he say it was?
Told me it was Lady Anne's idea.
Precisely. And yet Lady Anne today referred to it as Stamford's idea. Obviously you, dear Murphy, presented the plan to each as the notion of the other, so only you could have arranged the real theft behind the hoax. I repeat, a splendid job.
Thank you, Mr. Holmes. May I also compliment you on your cleverness in frustrating me plans?
Look here, what is all this? One of you is a criminal and the other is a detective. It's a fait accompli, as if you're in the same profession.
Dividing line between the criminal and criminal investigator is thinner than you might imagine, my dear doctor.
Very true, my dear Holmes. Would you consider coming over to my side of the line? Together, we'd make an unbeatable team.
You flatter me. Nevertheless, I must decline your offer, Mr. Murphy.
What a pity. Your side of the line, you'll never be a rich man. By the way, for your edification, my name is not Murphy, though Stamford insists on thinking it is.
Then what is your name, you scoundrel?
Your friend says the word scoundrel so much better than you, Doctor. My name is Moriarty.
Oh, indeed. Spelt M-U-R-T-R-Y.
No! Oh dear. I have so much trouble with my name, people will either misspell it or mispronounce it. I'm afraid I'm going to have to start calling it the way it looks. M-O-R-I-A-R-T-Y, Moriarty.
Moriarty. I shall remember that name. I have a feeling we shall meet again.
I trust that we shall. You've won the first round, Sherlock Holmes. I will admit that. I believe a return match is in order.
I shall look forward to it, Moriarty. Now, Doctor, I can't stand your pitiful look any longer. Shall we order lunch?
Well, Doctor, that was a pretty hectic April Fool's Day prank.
It was. And I never want to see another one exactly like it.
I don't blame you. Tonight's production of Sherlock Holmes and the April Fool's Day Adventure was brought to you by Ichthys Theater Productions. Directed by Martin Smith, sound engineer Rob Curwain. Original theme music by Stuart Smith, with thanks to light favorites Jewel 92. This production proudly sponsored by Joshua Wall of The Crew Real Estate. Are you or someone you know considering buying, selling, or investing in real estate? If so, better call Wall. Tonight's show featured Sean Hauk as Sherlock Holmes, Bruce Farley as Dr. Watson, Catherine Camp-Paynter as Lady Anne, Matthew Simmons as Stamford, Will Warren as Murphy, Joseph A. Sebok as The Waiter, and I'm Rob Curwain. Please support Ichthys Theater Productions with a donation to our GoFundMe fundraiser. Visit gofundme.com and search Ichthys Theater Productions, or visit Ichthys Theater Productions Facebook page for the link. Join us May 7th for our next production, The Problem of Thor Bridge.